The night was heavy, the air thick with the scent of rain that never came, and the clouds above had gathered into a seamless sheet of black, swallowing the moon entirely. The streets of the old village were deserted, their cobblestones slick with mist, and the trees whispered restlessly in the cold wind. Few dared to set foot here after dark, for the village carried a reputation, a place where strange noises echoed through the alleys at midnight, where travelers vanished without a trace, and where, in the heart of it all, stood a massive stone house that no one entered and no one claimed. Its windows were few and narrow, like the slits of a fortress, and its doors, made of blackened oak bound in rusted iron, seemed to sag under the weight of centuries. Those who passed by swore they felt the ground tremble beneath their feet, as though something beneath the earth stirred restlessly. Yusef had always dismissed such stories. He was young, curious, and stubborn. A man obsessed with unraveling the truth behind legends. To him, tales of curses and haunted houses were nothing more than superstitions told to keep people away from dangerous ruins. But that certainty began to erode the day he found the key. It was in a dusty antique stall at the far edge of the city's bazaar, half buried under a pile of brass trinkets and broken locks. The key was unlike anything he had ever seen, pitch black, heavier than its size should allow, and carved with an intricate, horrifying design, a face frozen in a silent scream. When he picked it up, a faint chill shot through his fingers. The shopkeeper's gaze hardened. "That," he said, "is not for sale, unless you are ready to see what should never be seen." His voice trembled slightly, though his eyes never left the key. Yusef, amused by the theatrics, laughed and placed more than enough money on the counter. The shopkeeper hesitated, then closed the young man's hand around the key, whispering something under his breath that Yusef couldn't quite catch. That night, alone in his dimly lit apartment, Yusef placed the key on his desk and stared at it. Hours passed, but he could not shake the feeling that the object was watching him. Then, sometime past midnight, the carved face on the key began to glow, faintly at first, then with a pulsing crimson light. The air grew colder. A sound, barely a whisper, drifted through the room, speaking in a language he could not understand. Yet somehow, he felt the meaning seep into his mind. Come to the house. Bring the key, Against all reason, as though pulled by invisible strings, Yusef dressed, grabbed a lantern, and made his way to the old village. The streets were silent, but in the distance, the stone house loomed like a shadow against shadows. The massive door stood slightly ajar, though no wind blew. When he reached it, he saw the keyhole. Black, ancient, and perfectly shaped for the object in his hand. He hesitated, his heart hammering, but the whispers in his head grew louder, urging him to turn the key. The metal slid into the lock with a sickening smoothness. As he twisted it, the door creaked open, but the sound was wrong. It was not wood groaning, but a scream, deep and human, echoing from somewhere far below. A wave of foul air burst out, heavy with the stench of rot and ash. The ground beneath him quivered violently. And then, without warning, the world shifted. Yusef stumbled forward and found himself no longer in the house, but in an endless wasteland. The sky burned a deep, sickly red, and the air shimmered with heat that clawed at his skin. The ground was black and stone-littered with ash, and in the distance rose jagged mountains made not of rock, but of piled bones, human and otherwise. Rivers of molten fire cut through the land, their glow casting monstrous shadows across the horizon. And then he saw it. A figure, massive and grotesque, emerged from the heat haze. It had the shape of a man but the features of something ancient and wrong, its skin cracked like scorched earth, its eyes black voids, and from its back sprouted great, leathery wings. The creature's mouth twisted into a slow, deliberate smile as it approached. Its voice, when it spoke, was like thunder rumbling from the core of the earth. At last, the bearer of the key. Yusef tried to move, but his body refused him. His muscles locked, his breath caught in his throat. The creature reached out with one clawed hand, and when its fingers brushed his skin, visions flooded his mind, visions of torture, endless screams, souls clawing at the ground, begging for release. He saw cities swallowed by fire, oceans turned to blood, and countless faces twisted in agony. He understood then, this was hell. Not a metaphor, not a dream, but the place itself. The key had not unlocked a door in the old village. It had torn open the gate between worlds. The creature leaned closer. The key chooses a bearer, and the bearer chooses the next. Before Yusef could respond, the landscape shifted again. He was standing in the doorway of the stone house, the key still in his hand. The air was silent, the village empty. For a moment, he thought it had all been a hallucination, until he saw the shadows at his feet, moving on their own. They whispered to him, promising power, promising escape, if only he would find someone worthy to take the key. The metal felt hotter now, as though it had fused with his skin. He knew there was no undoing what he had done. The key was his burden, until he passed it on. And somewhere deep in the crimson haze of that other world, the winged creature was waiting, smiling, knowing that the gates had been opened, and would never truly close again.